Hi coaches, this is Coach Phillips. Welcome back. Welcome to today's video. We're talking about Veer versus even front defenses. First of all, I just want to say thanks for watching and welcome to the new channel. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Let me know some things you might want to talk about, questions, comments, concerns, issues, etc. The reason I started this, I just love to learn new things, love to interact with new people, or new coaches, and hear about their schemes and what they do and how to get better. And so I'd love to hear from you across the country and start building an audience and a forum where we can all talk about these things. The series here continues. We're talking about the Veer. Otherwise, as we've been saying, the original RPO, the original run pass option. After this series is done, you should be able to know pretty much how to run the Veer from start to finish, with the exception of being drills. And if you're interested, maybe I can talk about some of the drills that we do with our O-line, with our quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, that kind of thing. So let me know if you're interested. You can comment, let me know, and maybe we can do that at some point. But once this series is over, hopefully you should have a pretty good idea of how to run this for the most part. But before I hop into that, where we talk about Veer versus even formations, real quick, I wanted to talk about offensive line personnel. Now, in the first video, I talked about personnel for our skill guys, but I didn't talk about personnel for the offensive line and kind of what body types we're looking for, what type of player we're looking for, and what generally makes us very successful on the offensive line. Now, I coach the offensive line for our freshman team. I coach the defensive line for our freshman team. And so this is obviously a position that I understand probably more than those other skill positions, but I feel like I have a pretty good handle on most of it anyway. But offensive line, definitely very important. So let's get started with that. So the center to start with. For our center, we want to have a guy who's quick, and his size really isn't that important. We don't need to have a huge center. We can have a guy who's 150, 160 pounds. 1 year on our freshman team, granted freshman is a little different than varsity, but we had a 120-pound center. And the reason we want that is because he scoops a lot. He's trying to cut off the nose a lot. He's not really trying to just dominate someone and drive them backwards. He's really just trying to cut them off. If we can cut them off, if we can do back blocks effectively, if we can scoop, then we're going to be in great shape if we have a good center. On our varsity team, we had a center who was excellent at this, and we started doing some things where we would have him cut off the nose, or cut off one technique or three technique one-on-one, and we were able to open up our offense even more because we were able to do that. So that's really important for us, is to have a center who's quick, who can snap the ball, obviously reliably, but is very quick in executing their assignment and just getting in front of that guy. It doesn't need to be a dominating block, just get in front of that guy. So that's the center. Our guards now. Our guards are kind of the movers in our scheme. They need to be more the bigger body types, the stronger guys who are going to just get guys moving. So like we said with scoops, we're trying to get that center is trying to get in front and cut that guy off, but then we want to get that guard to help him get movement, to really push him forward. Our guards will pull, and so a little bit of mobility is needed. We run a tailback counter, and we'll also run a power play, and we'll also run a waggle where our guard pulls in a question mark. And so they do need to have a little bit of mobility, but they're big boys, and we got to have them. They got to knock hat. They got to really push the defensive line around, and they got to get movement for us. Our tackles. In our offense, our tackles have to be very intelligent. They have to be able to read the defense. They have to be able to see what techniques they're getting from center to tackle, and be able to correctly call the scheme that we're looking for, that we're looking for in that particular play versus that particular defense. So when we run Veer, the blocking scheme can actually change multiple times. It can be several different blocking schemes, and it's all based on what the tackle will call. And everyone needs to know what that tackle call is. The quarterback needs to know. The tight end needs to know. I should say the receivers, it's not as important for them. But the quarterback and the tight end need to know, and the backfield needs to know. And then obviously the offensive line, how they respond to that tackle call is very important. So these two guys need to be somewhat intelligent. They need to be able to figure out what's going on. We like guys who are long and they're long, athletic, and can get after you. It's great, again, if they can move people, but that's not as necessary. We need our guards to move people, but our tackles don't necessarily have to be movers. We can often use a tight end to double team with them, but again, it's critical that we have those tackles get us in the right play and get us going. So that's kind of offensive line personnel. And so now I want to, again, move into our Veer versus even defenses. We'll talk about a 4-2 or 4-4, a 4-3, and then we'll talk about how we kind of spread out a little bit and still running the Veer, but we can manipulate the defense to get into things that we really want. So first, when the quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage, just want to share some of the details of how we attack this. He's going to make his snap count, and he's going to say our offensive line is going to be in pre-play before the quarterback gets to the line of scrimmage. And so they're going to have their hands on their thighs, they're going to have their eyes up, and we have them do this. We break the huddle, we sprint to the line of scrimmage, and we get in pre-play. And so we force the defense to declare, and we then are able to look at the defense and get a good read on so our tackles can make their tackle calls. So the quarterback will say down, and then everyone on the offensive line will put their hand in the ground, 3-point stance. Then our tackles will make their tackle calls, which will determine how we run that play. So our right tackle goes first, then our left tackle. It's always right then left. It doesn't matter what the play is, but it's always going to be right then left. Our quarterback will say down, set, hut, and that's the snap count. And then, but we also have something that I really like. We have a built-in different snap count for different plays, and it helps keep defenses off balance a little bit. So with that snap count, any play that is in the 1 or 2 hole is going to be on 2. Now, just to briefly explain that, 1 and 2 is going to be anything outside here. This is going to be the 1 hole. This is going to be the 2 hole. Those are going to be any play that is designed to go out there is going to be on 2. Any 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 play. So 3 is going to be an off tackle play right here. 4 is going to be off tackle right here. And obviously odd numbers are to the left, even numbers to the right. Then a 5 or 6 would be here, and 6 would be here. Then a 7 here and an 8 here. So 3, 5, or 6 or 4, any play that goes there is going to be just on 1. Any play that's a 7 or 8 is going to be on set. And we think this is a great design because quick hitters, we're going to get that we want to go right in A gap. Those are going to be on set, and we're going to get after it fast. These are just going to be normal, and then we mix it up by going on 2 with our outside plays. Now you might think that that's a dead giveaway, but it really isn't. The defenses don't really have time to respond. It might be obvious that information that we only go on 2 and have these outside plays, that might be obvious, but there's really not enough processing time for that defense to really understand, they've snapped it, they've said hut, and they haven't snapped it, it must be an outside play. They're not thinking that. It's too quick for that to happen. So that really works. And then, of course, we also can just manually say, we're going to run this play on 2. We can do that at any time as well. And so I think that system is really good. So again, if you want to see more of a fuller explanation of the whole system, I basically explained it here, but the first video I wrote, part 1 of the Veer, the original RPO, is you'll want to see that for that first video for the whole system. All right, so let's look at, we talked about tackle calls. And so, again, that quarterback needs to know that tackle call. And we talked about automatic snap count. So now the quarterback needs to understand who is being read. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this 4-2 and show how the quarterback needs to know who he is reading. All right, so if we called Veer 6, this is our A formation. A means we're going to place the tight end to the right. We'll have a Z off the ball to the right. We'll have an X to the left on the ball. And we'll be in I formation. This is A formation. And so our play call would be A, Veer 6. We're calling Veer to the right side. So we talked about this last time, but the call for this would be down. Okay? There's and the rule is we're trying to look at who is in this B gap. This tackle is looking who's in the B gap. If he has a 4-I, it's a different call because he can't go down at that point. He can't. When we say down, we're trying to leave this last man unblocked, and we're trying to block this linebacker. Okay. So when we have this 3 technique, he will call down. If he's in a 4-I, he can't call down. And so we'll address this in another video, but we have a different blocking scheme when we have a 4-I or a 4 on our tackle. Okay? So this tackle's got his head up. He knows that the last man on his scrimmage is going to be red. And so this defender, this defensive end, is being read in Veer 6. Okay? So we call down. That means that the guard and the tackle are going to be double teaming right here. Okay? We talk about they need to get their butts together. They need to each aim for the hip. And once that tackle feels this guard taking over that block, where this guard is really able to get out to the right hip, then he can come off and get to the Mike linebacker. He's got to take a good angle. And again, we talked about this in the first video, but we want him to use his left forearm and right punch and turn and wheel that guy. Okay? So hopefully we can get this all sealed off nicely. Okay? We talked about in the first video again. If you're not on the play side of the Veer, so to the right is the play side because it's A Veer 6, you're going to do what's called tail protection. So that means you're going to take your first step is going to be a 6x6 inch step to the right. Okay, 6 inches lateral and 6 inches upfield. So he takes that 6x6 step, then he runs his train tracks. Again, see part 1 for the train tracks. But he's aiming right at that mic. He's not going to get there. That center's not going to get there. But he can hopefully cut off the will. This guard, he's going to take his right 6x6 step. He's going to try to cut off the 1 technique. The tackle, he's going to take his 6x6 and run. Again, aiming at this will, but not likely going to get there. The will's going to be gone. Hopefully cutting off this weak safety, but then trying to find a block. Maybe the play winds back this way, and he can cut off the free safety. All right, so that's how we would block it. Now, the tight end needs to pay attention to the blocking or to the tackle call, as I said before. Any tackle call that does not include an S in it, the tight end is going to veer release on our veer schemes. So strike is an example that we use that involves the tight end. And we also have spike. We have strike and we have spike, but the call is down. So that obviously this tight end is not going to be involved in this part of it. He's going to veer release. And as we said with veer release, he's going to take 3 steps this way, keeping his shoulder square, and he's blocking for pitch. So again, he's in his 3-point stance. He's going to take 3 lateral steps, 1, 2, 3, trying to keep his shoulder square as best as he can to the defense and see who declares for pitch. In this defense, it's either going to be this guy or this guy. It's either going to be this stud linebacker or it's going to be the free safety. Typically, it's going to be this guy going to pitch. they'll mix it up, but it's usually going to be him. So he will try to cut him off, and he will take him where he wants to go. If he jumps outside, he'll push him to the sideline. If he's able to cut him off, he'll seal him inside. Okay? Quarterback knows that he's reading this defensive end. And he's going to get that ride, as we talked about in part 1. He's going to be on his back foot. He's going to be riding, getting onto his front foot, getting a long ride. And if the end tackles the fullback, it's a pull up the field quickly. Okay. If he does not tackle him, it's a give. We talked about it before. The fullback's going right at the crack of the guard. The fullback does not want to cut it back towards this. He wants to come right off of this block if he gets the ball, right off of the tackle's block. So he comes through. Tailback is maintaining the 6-by-1 pitch relationship. Will be a mirror block from our Z, a slice block from our X. Okay, so that's how we would block it versus the 4-2. Now, the quarterback, again, is seeing, he knows he's reading this guy, and then he's reading this outside linebacker. Okay? So what we'll do is we have something called Veer period, and we will work on all kinds of different ways that defenses in their base defense could possibly attack the Veer. So what could possibly happen? This end could not take the fullback, and he could take the quarterback, and this stud could take the pitch. So in that situation, we'd be looking for a give to the fullback. If he takes the fullback, and then this guy takes pitch, now the quarterback is running free. If he takes the quarterback and then, the fullback, and then he takes the quarterback, now the tailback should be running free. Again, whatever choices these two make, they're going to be wrong, and we're going to gain some great yardage. When we do Veer period, we just run the Veer over and over, and we just mix up the assignments for these guys. So we might, and again, the assignments being, well, this guy will have pitch, this free safety has quarterback, the end has fullback. Okay, now let's say the free safety will have fullback, the end has quarterback, the stud has pitch. Now the end has fullback, stud has quarterback, free safety has pitch. So you mix it up like that in your Veer period, and that's really going to help your quarterback get a good feel for anything. And again, we should be able to run this versus any defense. We should be able to run this versus any assignment they want to give us, and we should be able to be very successful in this. But that's how we will block it versus a 4-2 or what's considered a 4-4 if you bring up your stud and your weak safety, those outside linebackers. All right, so there's that. Okay, very similar. Oh, excuse me. I did not do the weak side for this. And let me draw that up. We can also run Veer to the left side, of course. Now, if we called B Veer 5, it would just be the same blocking scheme, simply in reverse. But if we call, let's say, A Veer 5, so we have a tight end to the right side, but we're actually blocking, but we're actually running the Veer to the left, it works out slightly differently. Okay, again, most teams will set their 3 technique to our strength. They also will tend to a big key, though. If you run into a single high team, they may shade this guy to the tight end. If they do, that's again giving you a great look to run weak side, or we'd call it quick side. Okay, so if we go 4-2, but we call A Veer 5, now we're looking to get really wide splits. Again, we see part 1 in the video for this, but if there's no one in the B gap, we want to have wide splits from our tackle. So he may widen out to out here, as long as that defensive end still goes with him. If he stays in that 5 technique, we want to get super wide. Okay? His call, again, will still be down. So, again, we're taking him down to this linebacker, the will linebacker. The guard and the center now are going to double team the nose. The center will make what's called an up call. The reason we say up, that's telling the guard that he's going to take a improper step. So if we say veer 5, in general, every lineman is going to take a left 6x6 step because we're running veer 5. But when with this particular formation, we obviously wouldn't want to do that and leave him trying to cut off that nose one-on-one in a disadvantageous position. So we're going to call up. The right guard's going to take a right step. Or excuse me, the left guard's taking a right step. The center's taking a left step. They're getting their butts together and they're driving. They're not going to come off and try to help on this. They're just going to drive that nose. Okay? Hopefully, again, they're taking him into that mic. The guard is going to call rip, and that's going to tell the tackle. The tackle needs to cut this 3 technique. Okay? He's telling the guard is telling the tackle, I'm going to try to cut off the mic linebacker. Okay? He's trying to take his 6x6 step to the left, dip and rip, not allow himself to be contacted by the tackle, and go. The rip call, he's now going to cut underneath. This tight end, not involved in the blocking scheme, but he's not on the play side now. If he's not on the play side, it's tail protection. So he's taking his 6x6 step, railroad tracks, running, trying to get underneath that end. Okay? Quarterback is reading this end. Now, if we've got a wide split like this, it's going to be a give 90% of the time. It's just too far for that end to get to the quarterback. Okay? Once again, this fullback is running right at the crack of the guard. Going to try to cut right off of that down block. Don't cut back into where all the blockers are. Cut off the down block and run. Again, they've got to maintain assignment football. This weak safety has to go to pitch or quarterback. He can't just sit there and try to take that fullback. He's got to make a decision. And typically, when teams play us, they're coached all week. You have pitch, you have pitch, you have pitch. They're coached exactly what their assignment is. It's hammered into them, and so they're going to do their assignment. And that's very, again, advantageous for us because we know what they're going to do, and then we're able to attack it in a way that best suits us. So, again, we will drill that. Sometimes this end is able to get to this fullback and tackle him. Then the quarterback goes, and he's reading the weak safety. He'll either pitch off of him, or if he takes the tail back, he will keep it and cut up the field. Running quick side versus even defense gives us great angles. This is a really fantastic play, especially if they choose to shade this free safety over to the tight end. As you can see, if he's eliminating to pitch, there's no one to tackle that fullback. If that end eliminates to the fullback, there's no one to tackle the quarterback. It's a very, very good play. So that's how we'll block it versus a 4-2 or a 4-4. Now 4-3 is very similar. We're just going to change the blocking angles slightly. So let's look at that. So if you have a 4-3, for our purposes, I'm going to give that a too high safety look. Okay, so if it's more 4-3, there would be something like this. So our corner and our Z. So again, the call will be down. If we call A, B, or 6, it's going to be down. So there's 6x6 step here, our double team, butts together, trying to get movement on this, drop him into the lap of the mic. But if he takes that, guard takes that over, he's going to get up to the mic there. Tail protection from our center. Tail protection from our guard, trying to cut off the nose. Tail protection, attempting to cut off the will, but if he can't get there, cut off the backside strong safety. Again, there's no S in the tackle call, so our tight end is going to veer release. But now he knows there's not as many people out here, and whoever goes to pitch is going to go. So he just has to know, it just changes it just slightly for him, because this guy or this guy will go to pitch. Often this guy's a QB player, and they try to have him go to pitch. 4-3 really is not a very good scheme, we feel like, to stop us. We think that it's too tight and it's too difficult. So, but again, our read keys here, we read our defensive end, and we read this stud. Okay? So again, End takes the fullback, quarterback attacks the stud, and then he pitches off the stud. Our tight end reads that veer release, and he's going to take either the free safety or the stud. So that's, and then again, we've got a mirror block here, slice block here. Okay? Go ahead and draw that up just to make sure we got our proper tracks. So that's versus 4-3. Okay? Going to be much the same thing to the quick side. Go ahead and draw that up again. Okay, so if we call A Veer 5 in this situation, again, we'll try to get our splits wide with this guy. I won't do it just for this point, but again, we want to have wide splits when there's no one in the B gap. So we will call down, we will block the will. Our center will give an up call, so we can have a double team here. Double team with our guard and our center. A rip call from our guard, telling the tackle to get underneath the 3 technique and cut him. We'll rip and go, trying to cut off the mic. Tail protection from our tight end, getting inside the end. Hopefully he can get inside the end quickly and run and maybe even cut off that stud or free safety. And again, we're reading here. And then we're reading who? Looks like here. Okay? This is again why we think 4-3 really isn't a great defense to defend. It's just, how is this guy at this safety going to get the pitch? How is he going to get to quarterback? It's too tough. So versus a 4-3, again, we really like those options. Again, we're first read, second read. Fullback, just to make sure we're all clear, fullback still running right at the crack of the guard. If he gets the ball, he's cutting right off the down block. Quarterback is going to come right here. If he gets the ball, tailback running his track. One thing I haven't mentioned is very important for this quarterback to carry out his fake. If he gets lazy and stops and looks at the fullback, it really hurts our fakes. Same with, or it really hurts that play because people then just collapse to the fullback. Same thing with the fullback. He really has to go, we say he's got to go for 3 hard steps with or without the ball. He's got to drive